So today we are going to talk about two things. One of them will not surprise you, which is for me to say that the BMW G30 5 Series may just be peak car. But one of them will certainly surprise you, which is to say that in the G30 5 Series, I actually prefer this car, the BMW 520d, to a 540i. What exactly is going on? Let's get into it in this first month report of this BMW 520d. Now, there's a very interesting part to being a petrolhead that is often overlooked. People think that petrolheads are just about driving fast, making a nuisance of themselves. They're fond of cars, but being fond of a car is equal to driving fast. Well, there's no doubt that being a petrolhead means that you do enjoy driving. Sometimes you do drive fast, but there is a lot more to being a petrolhead than just driving fast. Being a petrolhead is about appreciating good cars. And a good car isn't just a car that drives fast or that handles like it's on rails. There are other things that make a good car. If you think about it, one of the things that you can tell a real petrolhead is when they tell you that they love estates and they love fast estates. Why do petrolheads love fast estates? They love fast estates because it is just inherently such a cool idea that you have the performance and yet you have all the space. Space is such a it's such a boring thing. Why does a petrolhead care about space? But yet we love our fast estates. So, as I look to explain why I prefer this car, the 520d, over the 540i, this aspect of being a petrolhead, which is appreciating things about cars, appreciating cars that just do something that just makes so much sense, that is just inherently good, that's kind of where this comes in. So the best way to talk about this is to go on a drive, because that's where I think I can give you a better explanation of why I prefer the 520d over the 540i. I have owned both at this point. I've actually sold the 540i about a month ago. And perhaps we'll solve the mystery of what is it that really makes a good car. Okay. Now, let's talk about why some cars are good and some cars aren't good. And I often think it's a question of how does a car deliver versus its intended function. Right? That is an inherent part of how good something is. If you ask someone to do something for you, they ask them to do a product or a service, it's about what they're trying to give you. What is your expectation? And when it comes to, I've talked about this in my previous video, when I talked about my initial video on this car. When it comes to the brief of a luxury car, or rather a car that you would like to own, a car that gives you pride of ownership, not just a utilitarian car. I mean, a car is meant to carry people and transport, right, at a very basic level, but something a bit nicer than that. I struggle to think of anything better than the G35 series, and that is kind of why I will argue that the G35 series is peak car. And why the 520d over the 540i? I honestly think the 520d does a better job, and for the reasons that you may find a bit surprising, but a bit paradoxical, but I think they make sense, so just bear with me. So to begin with, to base ourselves, let me just tell you about this car. For those of you who haven't seen this car before, those of you new to the channel, this is a 2017 April 520d that I bought about a month ago, literally a month ago. The intent of this car is to be my wife's car. My wife is a real estate agent here in Singapore. So we got a diesel because she does like 1,500, 2,000 kilometers a month. So that's quite a lot by Singapore standards. So this car is in sapphire black. It has a Dakota interior, and it's what in Singapore we colloquially call an agent car, which is to say it is officially from the dealer. It's not a parallel import, as in imported from the UK. And this is the luxury package for the G30. The car had done about 126,000 ish kilometers, 800 ish, when we got the car. You can see the miles conversion here, and we have done, or rather my wife has mostly done, about 1600 kilometers since then. So it's at 128, 135 as I'm recording this. We had to do a little bit to the car, like you have to do to any used car. When you buy a used car, you expect something. So there was a minor leak on the car, which turned out to be really minor. So they took care of that, my workshop. And again, not very surprising with older BMWs, older German cars. And I had to also get a new set of tires, and we got a new set of Michelin Pilot Sport 4s or 5s, I can't remember now, whichever was the latest one, because I like having good tires on all cars. Those were the two things, and that was it. That was all we got done. And now, as you hear this, you get a sense of the thing with this car and why I kind of prefer it to the 540i. The 540i has the best engine, one of the best engines of the modern era or of any era, in my opinion. The B58. I have that on the 740i that I have right now. So, on the face of it, this great car, the G30, the great engine, the B58, 540i should be a match made in heaven. So why is it that this humble diesel is pulling at my heartstrings more? That, I sold the 540i about a month ago, and then we bought this because we'll get into the rationale earlier, but it was later. But basically, for my wife's car, she doesn't need necessarily a 3-liter engine, and there's a huge difference in pricing in Singapore. But the point is that even though I sold the 540i, I never thought about it. I have not thought about it. I have not missed that car at all. Yet, when I think about this car, because I'm constantly changing cars, so I'm also thinking about when will be the right time, because I'm hankering after a convertible, and I have a 7 Series, a 740i, and between the 740i and the 520d, obviously the 740i is what should I say? It's a nicer car. So if I want to ever get a convertible, this car will have to go. But my mind is completely against letting this car go in a way that it was not against letting the 540i go. And yeah, that is the contradiction here, and that's what we're going to try and unravel in this video as we talk about the first 1 month of ownership and what makes the G30i peak car and what makes the 520d ironically the best of the peak cars. The best way I can explain it is this. The G30 is peak car, but not peak driver's car, but it is decent to drive. And this is an important distinction. If you drive an older BMW, like say a 6 Series, not the last generation, the F generation, but one before that, E, the Chris Bangle design, for example. If you drive a E generation 3 Series or E generation 5 Series, you realize that those cars are driver's cars. Even a normal saloon is a driver's car. The convertible is a driver's car. I've owned all of these cars. And there is not an ineffable quality, but there is definite driver focus in the E generation BMWs that you do not see you see less of it in the F generation, and you don't see it at all in the G generation. So even a normal 525i or 530i, which only has 270 horsepower and naturally aspirated with like 300 something Newton meters, so less torque than this car, for example. That car is a proper driver's car. You feel it, the steering feels so good, everything is around the driver. It really is. So when you go to a G generation BMW, you're already starting off with, these cars are decent to drive, but they're not all-out driver's cars like older BMWs used to be. So that's the first thing to know. So with that in mind, when I had my 540i, given it has an incredible B58 engine, the expectation was that this is a 3-liter 400 something horsepower BMW 5 Series. It should be an incredible driver's car. And the truth of the matter is, it is reasonable to drive, but it was never an entertaining driver's car. When I concurrently owned the F10 M5 and the G30 540i for about 3 months, and then my brother came over and we drove both cars extensively back to back, we just concluded that the 540i had taught us that there is a difference between being a fast car and there's a difference between being a sporty driver's car. And the 540i just wasn't a sporty driver's car. It also isn't helped by the fact that the B58 engine in the normal application, whether it's a 740i, the 540i, is just so quiet and so smooth. Maybe it's a good thing. In a 7 Series, definitely it's a great thing to have such a smooth engine. It kind of fits the character of the car. But in a sporty 540i, there's no involvement. Even though the engine is incredible, it's so torquey, it's so powerful, it loves to rev, it gives incredible fuel economy for that size of engine. And so, all in all, it was always a bit of a contradiction. It's like, where is the fun? It really is, where's the fun? I have technically all the ingredients. It's a BMW 540i. The E39 540i is legendary. Where is the fun? It wasn't there, right? Even though the car is incredible, which gets to the G30. What I realized with the 540i is that the G30, firstly, I keep going back to weight. I obsess a lot about weight, but such a light car. It's about as light as the previous generation 3 Series. Such a spacious car. I have measured it. It is as spacious as the 7 Series short wheelbase in terms of knee room. So there's no difference when you go to a short wheelbase 7 Series. The difference is the 7 Series is a bit taller. So you maybe get a bit more leg room as a consequence of the height. But massive cabin nonetheless. This is a massive cabin. We went 4 people all the way to Cameron Highlands and back with all our luggage. Nobody was uncomfortable. It's massive enough to be a proper taxi. It's not a limo, but it's still very massive. So huge car, yet lightweight, incredibly luxurious, incredible high quality of interior. You compare this to an F10. The F10 is sportier, but the F10 is in a different league, a much worse league in terms of how luxurious or how good this interior feels. Even in 520D spec, 540i of course was fully loaded with Napa leather and the works, but even 520D, it feels similarly luxurious. It feels like a 7 Series, frankly. It feels better looks more luxurious than the previous generation 7 Series, the F01 7 Series. So you have a car that's very light, which has great advantages, very spacious, incredible interior, reasonably good looking. I would say it's a good looking in a conservative way. It's not, I would say it'll set your heart pulse racing, but it's a good looking car. Like everybody from your wife to your neighbors to your parents will like how the car looks because it's a very handsome car. It's probably peak car design in a way that it was never very modern, it was never very retro, it just is, it's just right. So you have that. So that's what is all that I appreciate. I really appreciated those aspects of the 540i, and I appreciated the power and the fuel economy and everything of the B58 engine. But it was missing that pulse. And then especially when I decided to sell my M5 to get a 740i, that video will be coming up soon or has already come up on the reasons why. Then after getting the 740i, and this will also tell you something, that I'm preferring to buy a 740i over a 540i. What does it tell you about the way the 540i is driving? It tells you something, doesn't it? Right? So then I was like, there's no point having 2 B58 engine cars. The 540i is anyway not setting my pulse racing, so I might as well get a 520D. But I was very, very clear that it's going to be a step down, and I'm going to maybe regret it and maybe think about why the hell did I sell a 540i and get a 520D. But you know what? I haven't felt that at all. Because in the 520D, it kind of amplifies everything that's good about the G30. And what was disappointing about the G30 in a 540i is amazing in this car. So let me explain. The 540i is a decent car to drive, but it is not out and out sporty a driver's car. But it is a decent car to drive. It's a BMW. BMWs are great to drive. In a 520D, because I had an E220D before this, the E220D positively felt like a German taxi. It's a good thing. It's a high quality product which feels like a taxi. This car handles as well as the 540i, because it's the same car. It has a passive setup. The 540i had the active setup, but frankly, the passive setup in this car is just perfect. It's Goldilocks. Maybe it's also the wheels are a little bit. It has 18-inch wheels. These are 20-inch wheels, so the ride quality is much better, and the handling trade-off isn't really there. It handles as well as the 540i. Frankly, after driving this car, I'm feeling like, why the hell do we bother with all of these fancy active setups? We just need one good suspension setting that does it, and this car has it. So it's a driver's car. It may be a diesel, but it does have 400 Newton meters. In sport mode especially, it just pulls like 400 Newton meters come and just pull you. And the engine, we'll get to the engine sound in a second, but it has enough power and torque. It's a 7.5 second car to 100, so it's not slow by any means. And it has a great chassis, the G30 chassis. If you had this kind of chassis for a car that's trying to be a sports car, you'd be like, it's disappointing. But in a car that's supposed to be a luxury saloon, it's incredible. So in a 520d, the chassis feels great because it exceeds your expectations of what a 520, what a diesel basic luxury car should do. So there's that. In context of the 20d diesel engine, this chassis feels amazing. So comfortable, yet you feel involved. Number two, the engine. The engine in the 540i was amazing, super smooth. Cannot compare it to the 520d. Let be there no doubt. The smoothness of the B58 engine is crazy. But the 520d engine is the smoothest diesel engine and the most fun diesel engine I've ever encountered. It is in a different league versus the Mercedes E220d. The E220d felt industrial. In fact, I was shocked. How can they put a Mercedes E-Class badge on a car that is so industrial feeling, in my opinion? This car, it feels like a 5 Series despite having a diesel engine, and that's saying something because the E-Class 5 Series E6 is a level of car, level of refinement, a level of luxury that you expect. This car feels like it. And in normal comfort mode, it's super torquey. I drove an Audi A4 earlier, I was talking about the 1.4. That is reasonably torquey. This is mega torquey. Honestly, we've been spoiled by crazy fast cars. This is a rapid car. This is properly rapid. You give this to a normal driver, they will be like, what the hell is going on? It's too fast for a normal driver. And in sports mode, it's really fast. Again, my expectations have been set versus, having M5, 540i, 400, 500 horsepower. But the good thing is that the two weeks that I had accidentally sold the 540i and the M5 on the same day, and before we had gotten another car, we had to actually rent a normal car, and we rented a Chevrolet Cruze, a normal car, which kind of reminded me of where I had come from, what a normal car really is, like a normal car that does like a 10, 11, 12 second to 100. Then we got into this car after having driven the Chevrolet Cruze, and I was like, whoa, this is a beast. I know it's all about comparison, etc., but it's crazy how fast this car feels and how entertaining it is, and how the NVH levels on the diesel, they're not, you can never compare it to a B58 inline 6, like inline 6 smoothness is something else, but it's incredible. And so you have a car that's incredibly spacious, incredibly luxurious luxury car, which drives like a very well, much better than other luxury cars. You have an engine which has got incredible torque. It feels really good. And not to mention, we haven't got to the coup de grace, the fuel economy. This car probably doesn't believe in drinking fuel. This is perhaps a good time to interrupt you and tell you to go check out the 520D Fuel Economy Challenge from the center of Singapore to the end of Singapore, and you will be shocked at the fuel economy this car delivered. This car, it gives like 20 plus on the highway, kilometers per liter, and it gives like 12, 13 in the city, which is basically, it gives double the fuel economy of a 540i, double. Which is also crazy because the 540i doesn't give double the power. And that combined with how much this car costs, because this car is... Time for another interruption from the studio. At the time of filming this, you will notice that there is a $40,000 to $50,000 price difference between 8-year-old 540i's and 8-year-old 520Ds. And Even if you count depreciation, it is still probably more than $10,000 a year cheaper. And of course, you decide to keep the car beyond 10 years, that difference is the entire $40,000 to $50,000. It is much, much more affordable than the 540i, but more than that, it is so much, it is in a different league. When you compare it to cars that cost similar amounts of money, there is nothing that I can think of uh, that is even close in kind of delivering everything: luxury, performance, reasonable driving, fun. It just is pretty much, it does it all. And that's where the contradiction comes in for me, because I'm like, Singapore cars are so expensive. It is so rare to get such a good deal, because if I wanted to buy an equivalent new car in Singapore that kind of does everything this car does, I would struggle to find something for even, I would say, even $250,000-$300,000, because that's how crazy Singapore market is. So given that I have this at this price, even if I renew the COE in 1.5 years, we'll see where the prices are. It still is way cheaper than the cheapest new car in Singapore. And the cheapest new car in Singapore is crap compared to the G35 series. Hell, I would say the new 5 series is crap compared to the G35 series, because the interior quality is so terrible. Screens cannot disguise interior quality, is what I have to tell you guys. People think that bigger screens, more lights, disco lights makes a better interior. No, it's about how the materials feel, how well put together they are. Good quality materials like this nice semi-leather covered dashboard, solid feeling doors. Every item is like solid. It's great to touch. That's what I prioritize versus plasticky thingies. So folks, there you go. I think the G35 series is probably the best car that you can buy, especially since they're used right now. You really can't go wrong with it. I'm not talking about sports car, I'm just talking about a normal luxury family car. Unless you really need an SUV, you really need the space, and think about whether you really need it. Probably you don't. It may be for some hypothetical trip that you'll never take, that you have this, you're lugging around all that weight and all that height and all the compromises that come with it. So unless you really need an SUV, the G35 series is spacious, it is cheap because nobody wants saloon cars anymore. It is incredible value, it is better than any new car that you can buy today. I will say that hand on heart. You don't have to get a 520D, you can get a 530i, which is another great, that engine is another great combination. You can get a 540i if you really want that inline six smoothness. Though just don't get the 520i, I think that engine is like neither here nor there. And I think you will be very satisfied.